Morning attendance, Todd check, Kyle check, Dan check. Everyone is present. Also present for the Toronto Blue Jays in their Tuesday night game in Anaheim, Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman. Where should we start here? Kyle, your thoughts first.
Is Trevor Hoffman still available? Can we have him come back and do? Listen, I'm not on any medications. I would like to stay off medications, but this man's pushing me close. I think he'd be a real good fourth or fifth inning pitcher on the Rockies or something. I don't know what's going on, guys.
I mean, look, guys, there's people in the bullpen that get to pitch in high leverage situations when you want to try and get a game across the finish line with a win. And there's guys that have the luxury of coming in to pitch in mop-up duty. Apparently, the Blue Jays have confused those two particular storylines, the way things are working. But credit to them, they were able to navigate through a little bit of turbulent waters. They're on a modest winning streak. And the march towards 500 continues in earnest, with a potential 4-game sweep against the Los Angeles Angels looming on the horizon.
Here's what the Jays can do. Because right now, no one can take seeing Hoffman in a safe situation anymore. And John Schneider, he's run out of excuses saying he's my guy. Louis Varland is your guy. So your first game back at home in a safe situation, unbeknownst to anyone, you have entrance music for Varland. The place goes dark. All of a sudden people are like, oh my goodness, the Hoffman experience is over. And you get a newfound sense of relief. That is what the Toronto Blue Jays need to do.
I mean, Toolsy, pick up the phone, call your contacts in Hollywood. Maybe Rick Vaughn / Charlie Sheen has a little bit left in the tank. He can come out there and work those high leverage situations in the 7th and 8th. You get a little wild thing going in the stadium, and all of a sudden, hope springs eternal as we flip the calendar eventually from April to May.
Todd, it's important to point out some good things with this Jays win streak right now, too. And I want to point out how the front office has managed to sign guys since the start of the season. Last night's win can directly be attributed to 3 of them. Of course, pitcher Patrick Corbin, Lenyn Sosa, and Eloy Jimenez. I always say his name wrong. But those are 3 guys that have joined this team since the start of the season with massive contributions last night. For a team just hanging on right now, it has to be respected what they've done in the front office level.
You have to do everything to stay afloat this time of year. I mean, Blue Jays fans saw it last year. It's not like anybody saw them as World Series contenders when you got through the month of April. I think this is always what's interesting about the 162-game marathon that is the Major League Baseball regular season. You do everything to figure out your identity. You try and get guys healthy. If you can get out of the opening month of the season at 500, you're sitting in a great spot. And to your point, I mean, Sosa looked a little bit more like Sammy Sosa with some of the contributions that he could lend out there against that Angels team. But credit to them. I mean, the sky is not falling. It's not Chicken Little time. Their team is 10-13. Things are going to be just fine as the Jays continue to get bodies back. And maybe more importantly, for all of the things that we have questions about in this team's bullpen, I mean, Kevin Gausman continues to go out there and mow guys down. The one thing you'd like to see from Gausman, even at his advanced age, is if he had the capabilities to go a little bit deeper into games. It feels like 6 innings, at least for right now, whether that's John Schneider deciding or Kevin Gausman's physical limitations appear to be the best that can be expected. It's recording 18 outs and then handing the ball over to the bullpen.
Just checking on Corbin's age here. So he's
no
36.
Spring chicken. No spring chicken, Toolsy.
But he hasn't reached Jamie Moyer category yet.
Well, he can still break a pane of glass with his fastball, which automatically means that he's one step ahead of Jamie Moyer. And how quickly we tarnish the glory years of Jamie Moyer, not as a member of the Baltimore Orioles, but the time he spent honing his craft as a member of the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, it was a great time to be alive, witnessing Jamie Moyer and then him even appearing in, was it the ESPN Sports Center commercials that he was in?
Hey, I mean, look, maybe there's a chance with Patrick Corbin as he gets a little bit older, he can go Phil Niekro-esque, and one of the two of you guys can head out there and try and teach him to throw a knuckleball, which will allow him to be a 4th or 5th starter in this league until he gets into his mid-40s.
Knuckleballs are 90 miles an hour now.
Yeah, and they don't dance nearly the same way. I long for the days of Tim Wakefield where you never knew what you were going to get. Ball comes out of his hand at 65, and they used to interview him after games on Nesson, going, "Did you know you were going to have your best stuff?" He goes, "I never know when I'm going to have my best stuff."
Guys,
which I respect, to be a professional athlete and have that line.
Tell me if it's just my eyeballs, but there's something about an evening game in Anaheim where everything just looks more crisp and green, and it almost looks like AI.
I mean,
Is it the light? Is it the light at this time of year? I don't know what it is, but it just looks different than if you were playing an afternoon game on the East Coast or an evening game on the East Coast.
Look, I mean, grass is already in full bloom out here on the West Coast. I mean, you've seen the frigid temperatures that these teams have to go through. So comparing a late afternoon game in late April in Anaheim to a game time starting temperature of 26 degrees in Detroit, asking for the grass to look the same. Toolsy, it's like going to Wrigley Field in April where you don't have anything close to even resembling ivy on the wall. Just looks like brown weeds, and there's Little League stadiums across this country down here and your great country up north where the building looks much more conducive to professional baseball.
That makes perfect sense. Furzy, I'm not a smart guy. I also thought when Keegan Matheson told us who was it? Dylan Cease was into vintage teas that I thought he was talking about vintage tea, like you buy old tea. So I'm not the smartest guy, and I can't figure these things out. I need help.
Kyle, here's Toolsy trying to figure out if Dylan Cease drinks a nice Earl Grey.
That's what I was doing.
A green tea, a little bit of chamomile. I didn't even know vintage tea could potentially be a thing. What are you doing? Buying tea from like 300-400 years ago?
And then I looked it up. Yes,
in Britain. Okay, wait, it is actually a thing.
Yes, you can buy old teas that they find.
Maybe Elaine still has a piece of wedding cake sitting in her fridge that you can eat buttercream from 200 years ago to try and really top off your vintage teas.
The last thing this Blue Jays locker room needs right now is an unfortunate teabagging incident. But Todd, you're a sports betting expert. I want to ask you something because I'm looking on Bet Rivers right now, and the Blue Jays win total for the season has been dropped down to 81.5. That's essentially saying this is a 500 baseball team, which, given all the injuries and maybe the slow start, that's still a hard thing for me to picture. Should I jump on this?
I would lean over the total. I know I made a case coming into the year, Kyle, that I thought their win total was a little bit inflated where Bet Rivers closed it. I want to say in that 87.5, 88.5 range.
89.5.
Okay, so even higher there. And now we're looking at a team that's right around 500 to your point, but they've still only played 23 games to date. So, I mean, you do the quick math on that. That's well less than 20% of the total games they're going to play this year. So if you're sitting with a little bit of under 89.5 in that portfolio, I would have no qualms whatsoever looking to go over 81.5 and try and land that fiddle in the middle, especially when I look at the rest of the division and questions abound about the Red Sox, their identity going forward. I know the Rays offense has been a bit of a revelation, but their bullpen has been trash. I was a little bit of a buyer on the Baltimore Orioles coming into the season. I'm not sure I'm as bullish there either. And while my Yankees are going to get a little bit healthier, hopefully with some reinforcements on the mound, this is still an offense that leaves a lot to be desired. I can't officially buy into Ben Rice being the second coming of a great New York Yankees anchor in the middle of the lineup, despite what some of those underlying metrics will tell you.
Furzy, 23 games into the season, and you're a Mets fan. What do you do realizing your team is already out of it?
You're trying to figure out how you get out of paying for the remainder of your season tickets. And if you've signed a longer term deal, you're hoping that Steve Cohen can take money out of the casino projects he's trying to build in and around Citi Field and hoping that works out in their favor. Because that $370 million Mets payroll not paying dividends right now. I'm not sure if it's chemistry behind the scenes. The Mets fans can point their finger at the lineup operating with no Juan Soto, but there are a lot of more underlying concerns. And I was digging around a little bit yesterday. No team in the history of Major League Baseball has ever made the postseason when they've lost 12 games or more in a season. So New York Mets fans, it's a good thing that the Jets are on the clock, and they still may not know who they're going to draft with the second overall pick just 36 hours away.
Todd, back to the Blue Jays front office for a second. Was their best move over this winter not signing Bo Bichette?
I mean, we talked about it, guys. Blue Jay fans had this love affair with a player that couldn't stay healthy, was declining defensively, and wanted a lot more money than I thought he was worth. Sometimes if you truly love someone, you have to let them go. And for the Blue Jays, it's paying extreme dividends, at least early on in the campaign, despite the rash of injuries and them trying to cobble together a lineup on a night-in, night-out basis.
The Stanley Cup playoffs, the Blue Jays playing on the West Coast. It has turned a lot of East Coast Canadians into zombies trying to keep up with it all. But the first week of the Stanley Cup playoffs. What have you noticed? What has surprised you so far, Furzy?
How defensive-minded some of these games have been. We always talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs being less space for teams to operate, things moving faster, that higher level of physicality. But we haven't seen scoring decline at this kind of rate. And again, it's a small sample size for quite some time, mainly because we get a preponderance of penalties where if you breathe on a player in close proximity, the refs would prefer to see a team operate with a man advantage. But we've seen goaltending be a little bit better. We've seen some shot suppression. And we've seen teams essentially needing to get to that 3-goal threshold if they're going to get out of Dodge with a victory. So as a former goalie and someone who gravitates towards betting unders, Toolsy, cover your ears, this is something that warms my heart. And I much prefer to see tight checking, low-scoring games where you never know where a game could potentially flip. Of course, the Ducks and Oilers series appears to be a little bit more of a throwback, a lot more open-ended in the 4-3 thriller that we saw in Game 1 there. And a unique stat that all 7 goals ended up going into one net. So I'm not sure what they're doing with the lighting up there in Edmonton for that particular series.
Todd, we have some Canadian teams in the playoffs this year. Which one will go the deepest in the playoffs?
So can I go from off the beaten track here? I know a lot of people are going to gravitate towards the Oilers, and rightfully so, with the most favorable matchup. I think people are rightfully excited about what we've seen from Montreal in back-to-back overtime games against the Lightning. Bell Center is going to be absolutely raucous on Friday night when Montreal tries to maintain home ice advantage in that series. But I don't think, gentlemen, that the Ottawa Senators are anywhere close to dead. I love the fight that we saw from the Sens in Game 2. Now, I know Jordan Martinook needed to try and go out there and score 13 goals. Still trying to figure out how the league decides to leave the discretion of offsides in maintaining puck possession going across the blue line. That's neither here nor there. But I think this is an Ottawa team that showed me an awful lot. And while they're a bit thin on the blue line, we'll see if Artem Zub can return to action for Game 3. That if they're able to knock off the Canes at home, there is a very good chance that Ottawa could send this series back to Raleigh and have an excellent chance to turn into a best of 3 and maybe be the surprise team because I think whoever comes out of that series, in my opinion, becomes the front runner to win the Eastern Conference.
Can I just point out that for the Flyers, Porter Martone, the pride of Peterborough, Ontario, my hometown, great kid. He set a Flyers record for the first Flyers teenager to ever score in his first 2 playoff games. And should I remind you that a playoff legend for the Washington Capitals, John Druce, who made a name for himself, also from Peterborough, Ontario. So Porter Martone could become the new John Druce, both from the same place.
Does that mean when you drive into Peterborough, they're going to take your name off the placards then and replace it with Porter Martone because they think he's a little bit more of a household name going forward? Dan, I feel like that's a little bit of a disappointment here.
No, you put Drucer and Porter, who golf at the same course. We all golf at the same golf course. So maybe just put it at the entrance to the golf course, all their names.
See, there we go. We can think outside the box a little bit. I know golf season lasts a robust 6 weeks once you're able to scrape the snow and ice off the course, or you're playing when it's 34 degrees in Peterborough. But Martone has given the Flyers a shot of life. I mean, pretty impressive to go on the road and win the first 2 games at PPG, but it's not what they're doing offensively. I mean, clearly this group has fully bought in to the defensive structure that Rick Tocchet wants to play. They're making life a little bit more simple and straightforward for Dan Vladar in front of the crease. And we'll see if they're able to carry some of that momentum forward, which what becomes now a must-win situation for a veteran group in the Pittsburgh Penguins. But we would be doing a disservice to the youth movement that we've seen through the playoffs thus far if we also didn't mention, one of Pittsburgh's very own and Logan Cooley, who has been phenomenal for the Utah Mammoth in the first 2 games and having the privilege to see those guys up close and personal in Game 1. Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley are going to be a problem for everyone in the Central Division and the Western Conference for the next 5 to 7 years if they're able to keep that tandem together.
And back to Peterborough, Dan, hockey there hasn't been this exciting since Mike Ricci skated for the Petes in the early 90s, I believe it was. That was an exciting time. I had the little mini stick.
Remember when Mike Ricci was named the sexiest man in the NHL?
I was going to ask, has Mike Ricci ever won the most handsome man in Peterborough at any point in his life?
Does anyone know if he's still sexy? Anyways, so the Leafs, the GM search, I guess it continues. Like, we haven't heard much in the way of Todd. Your head shake basically just answered the question, but please carry on.
I mean, the question I have, Kyle, are we going to get a fresh name, the Leafs thinking outside the box, or are we going to get just another retread in the front office. Maybe the Leafs decide that, hey, Patrick Allvin did such a great job in Vancouver that they should promote him and bring him in to try and give him a little bit more of an expansive role now that he was let go by Mr. Rutherford. But all kidding aside, I think this Leafs team has a lot of questions they have to answer. They need to figure out their identity and really lay out a plan that gives them a chance to be competitive. Because when you look at the pecking order in the Atlantic Division going forward, I mean, Montreal isn't going away anytime soon. They're on the ascent. The Boston Bruins were down for a second. While I don't love that roster, I give them a world of credit for making themselves relevant again. Florida is going to return to health. Tampa's not going away. So do the Toronto Maple Leafs decide to put a Band-Aid on what needs to be an amputated limb, or you should better apply a tourniquet? I'm going to be fascinated to see how this GM search unfolds, but I would think outside the box and look to try and rip this down to its studs before you build back stronger.
And it's a search committee that is compiling the names, which just baffles me. You're
Right.
the longest running franchise in the sport, and you have to go to an outside firm.
I mean, is a search committee better than them deciding that Keith Pelley should be using AI to throw in a list of names into Claude or ChatGPT?
That's the committee, Todd.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's
gonna
three
say.
different AI services.
We're going to come to find out that's exactly what the committee is, because the Leafs are in Tom Dundon-like cost-cutting measures where the Portland Trailblazers still may be on a bus heading back from San Antonio to Portland with a 30-plus hour bus ride just to make sure that the owner is able to make payroll next month.
Hey guys, I got an AI crash course because I had to send my daughter a text about school and stuff, and I had ChatGPT help me write it. And she goes, "Dad, why did you use ChatGPT to write a text to me?" I'm like, "How did you know?" Because there was an M dash. Do you guys know what an M dash is?
I do not know what an M dash is. Is it similar to an enye for speaking in Spanish?
It's a little dash that ChatGPT puts in, and she's like, no human uses that. So that is the telltale sign if someone puts a dash between words that they use ChatGPT. So if you're using ChatGPT, you go in there and say, take out all dashes. And they're like, my bad, won't do it again.
You know what my takeaway was from this discussion, Kyle, is that Dan did not elect to proofread the text message before sending it to his lovely daughter, where it would have taken him 3 seconds to figure out that the spacing was off or that there was something a bit janky. So he could have preserved the level of authenticity he was looking for to be Father of the Year in Peterborough.
Yeah. So there you go.
You can always go back and ask for how do I make it up to her now? how do I show her things are right and that I'm thinking?
Oh, no,
and send that over directly with more M dashes, so she'll still know that
just
Dan
a
didn't
bunch
come
of
up with the idea on his own.
I did follow it up with a text saying, how's your day going? Written by ChatGPT that had an M dash. And she just did the hold hand to the forehead. Like,
ask her who they think the Leafs should sign as GM.
It is the thought that counts, the way I see it. Any communication is good communication in this digital age.
Furzy, thanks, buddy.
Always a pleasure, boys.